Welcome to CarePod, a safe place to educate, inspire, and renew the caregiver. Listen in with our host, Dr. Kiplee Bell, as she interviews different experts along the caregiving journey.
Okay, CarePod audience. So I'm here today with sexpert extraordinaire, Leah Spasova. And I'm so, excited to have this conversation because it's an important conversation. We spoke a little bit offline about, why sex, why have a sexpert, why have a conversation surrounding sex. And I'm bringing her on because it's honestly an important conversation that I have at bedside with patients. And I often chuckle to myself as a clinician that I will have men on their deathbed, okay? And their primary concern is their erectile function, dysfunction, quality of life, meds that affect that area of their life. Or can enhance such, and so forth. And less percentage of women in the same. And being that women caregivers are often exacerbated, and that might be the last thing on their mind. It's just important to kind of bring it out in the open and have this conversation. So welcome. I'm going to stop talking. Welcome so much to the CarePod, Leah. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure, and addressing your community is quite vital because especially women forget to take care of themselves and forget that sex can be such a revitalizing and energizing experience that makes them feel youthful, makes them feel full of energy and recharged, really. But women are not taught how to advocate for their pleasure. They're not taught to claim their bodies for themselves. Their bodies have been of service to everybody but themselves for the most part.
Interesting.
So it's really vital conversation to have. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I ask every guest when we start, your why, what got you into this field, and tell us more about the sexpert expertise. What are you here to do for people to help revitalize this area of their lives?
Mm-hmm. Well, my experience and life story is very different to many sexuality professionals. I was very privileged and fortunate to grow up in a sex positive family. So there was never shame and guilt around sexuality. And if I had any questions, I could just ask and they were answered as a matter of fact. And to me as a teenager, it was really strange that all of my friends would come to me to speak about those things. And I just thought everybody has parents that would talk to them about those things as mine did. And I became a sexpert from a very early age to all of my friends, community, cousins, the whole thing. And I realized that most people do not have that kind of access of guilt-free and shame-free sex education, relationship education. And one day I grew up and I became a psychologist and I specialized in sex and relationships because it's a favorite topic. I love the taboo topics. Give me something that people don't want to talk about and I'm all in. Honestly. And I found that throughout my life, this is exactly what people have been seeking me to advise them on, to support them with, because they have felt safe with me. No judgment, no shame, no, you have to do it that way, otherwise you're stupid or otherwise you're doing it wrong. It's always been a safe space for them. And long after I have moved country and I've been traveling, people from like a decade ago would still get in touch and be like, so you know how I have this issue? Or, hey, I have an issue with my girlfriend, boyfriend, can you help me? So it was just a calling, I guess.
Yeah.
It came from a place of privilege, really.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting because I'm kind of wearing a couple hats here because as a parent, you want your children to have that open-ended conversation, to be able to discuss these things freely again with appropriate stewardship of their own bodies, diligent of who they give their hearts to, etc. But it's an interesting point you raise about guilt and shame and how that carries you into your adulthood, creates complexes, insecurities, etc. So take us fast forward to my care pod population, 50 plus. I can hear some of my caregivers in my ear, like, when, if at all, do I have time to think about this? But you talk about, claiming your body, having a refreshing, to use your word, time of pleasure with your loved one. So,
Mhm.
what are where do you begin with that client, with the 50 plus that says, hey, like, you'll hear some 50 pluses that say, this is the best time of my life. I thought I knew what I was doing when I was 20, but this is the best. So how do you strike that balance between the free bird that feels like they're living their best life in this regard, and the one that is exasperated, wants to find small pockets of time to connect with their partner, but might be just exhausted?
Well, the trouble is we live in a busy world and lead very busy lives. And I keep saying you won't have time. You need to make time, which means you need to say things, you need to say no to things that don't fill your cup or are not um, taking you where you need to be. And sometimes it may feel really overwhelming, even the thought of saying no to people who need you or want your attention or duties that you have around the home or whatever it is. But in the end of the day, you will never have enough time for anything. And
Mm,
even research has shown that work and the amount of time that we dedicate to work, it doesn't matter what kind of work it is. It may be housework, it may be care work, it may be work at the workplace, expands the more time you give it. So
mm,
put briefly, if you are, let's say, a housewife and you give yourself 2 hours to clean the whole house, no compromise, you will clean this house in 2 hours. If you give yourself the whole day, you may stretch it to 2 days even, just because we will feel that time that we need. Well, no, we'll feel that time that we give ourselves, not because we need it, but because we've given ourselves that time. And when it comes to, well, how do you find the energy? How do you find the headspace? You have to invite sexuality into your sphere,
mm,
to be sexual, to become sexual, to connect with the sexual within yourself. So, to put it in a more tangible way, is your head is full of whatever you give it. Your body would react to whatever surrounds you. So, if you want to charge your mind on sexual kind of wave, you should look into how you can redesign your environment for your body and for your mind. Let's say you're thinking of redecorating your bedroom. How can you make it more sensual, more sexual, hot,
mm,
interesting to be in? Would you buy some really nice silky sheets? Or would you put some red lights around the room? Would you put a hot mirror right there next to the bed? What would you do? Would you put some
interesting.
art, on the walls of hot bodies and intimate situations and whatnot, that really, every time that you walk in that room, you just feel like, oh, yeah, this is hot here. It's so sexy to be here. Or would you have piles of laundry, piles of clutter, sheets that you hate, but you just keep on using them, whatever, and they're not a sensual experience for you to get in bed. They're just like, "Oh, just move on." If you have the piles of clothes in your bedroom, you will be thinking about that. If you declutter and you have a bunch of sexy photos and art on the walls and really soft lights and really silky, beautiful sheets that your body is just rejoicing to be in, guess where your mind would be? Into those sheets, into this art. If you put some sensual, beautiful music and it just plays anytime that you walk into the room, that's just peaceful and beautiful, your body would react to this.
You're
Think
so
exactly
right. You're
how.
so right. It's interesting because we're trained on talking about sleep hygiene, right? When a patient has insomnia, what is your, sleep hygiene? Do you eat in bed? Do you watch TV late into the night? All the things. So, that is a very interesting perspective. So if I want to now connect with my loved one in this way, I have to create the environment both for myself and the one that I love. So that's really an interesting take. What's been your most successful tool with your clients?
When it comes to introducing or bringing more sex into their life?
Yes, like in terms of tools, just like you said, in terms of adding sheets or an environment that is, inviting.
Well, the other component, this is the physical, but then you need the mental. That's why in sleep hygiene.
So you were talking about the mental aspect. So we get our sheets, we get the lights, we setting the mood, but we have to bring our mental space into meeting the desire is essentially what I hear you saying.
Yeah,
Tell us more.
yeah. So similar to how it is in sleep hygiene, where you need to think about not only the space, but how are you using your brain in that space? Are you on your phone scrolling or watching endless TV that is preventing you from falling asleep? You need to think about it in the same way when it comes to your sexuality and your experiences with the sexual realm. So one of the things that I say to people and my clients is you have to think, how do I fix my environment? And then how do I fix the environment and what I'm feeding for my brain? So as I was saying, if your bedroom is full of laundry, you'd be thinking about the laundry. How can you fill your head with sexy stuff that excite you, that tickle you, so that you get in the mood, so that you can drop into your body and enjoy it? And that would be by inviting sexy stories, maybe, or sexy books. A lot of women are very much into reading erotica and kind of like imagining things and fantasies, etc. This is one thing that you can do if you're a bookworm. If you're not so much into books, there has been an explosion in audio porn, which is very much favored by women because it isn't graphic, it isn't gross to look at. For a lot of women, porn is gross. And the audio porn gives you a very different alternative where you just listen to a voice. You may even select an accent if you prefer, I don't know, a French accent, or in my case, an Irish accent, to kind of get your juices flowing, your brain juices. You need to lube that brain and create that space for it to thrive. And the interactions with your partner are part of it. You have to play with your partner day in and day out. What does that mean? I don't know. Pinch each other's booties, steal kisses, play hide and seek, whatever it is that makes you feel connected and youthful and passionate about your partner. Do more of these connecting things. Kiss more. There's so much research that shows that the people who kiss every day for longer live longer, enjoy happier relationships. So if you haven't kissed your partner for days, go give them a smooch, you know? And one of the things that I know, and I need to warn here, both men and women, the reason why women stop initiating touch and intimate connection with their partners is because the partners pretty much always read it as like, oh, it's going to be sex now. And they try to escalate it when the woman actually just wanted a passionate kiss. So that is why a lot of women stop initiating anything intimate, because the guys just take it all the way and try and then feel aggravated. It's like, you're teasing me, I'm gonna get blue balls now, or whatever bullshit they want to
Rejection.
say to. Yeah.
Hmm.
And the thing is, the more you do this to your partner, the more they're going to distance themselves from you intimately. And it's not like they don't want to, but they may need that kind of connection and making out and holding hands and cuddling before they're sexual with you. So men need to kind of like give a little bit of space to women to own their sexuality, to make the first steps in a safe environment where a kiss does not necessarily mean we're taking our clothes off and having sex.
Hmm.
But
And you know, I
again,
often say to clients, patients of my own, that intimacy starts outside the bedroom. Like that
yes.
doesn't seem to be taught, to men, or that intimacy, it can be, oh my God, you clean the house, you vacuumed, you put away the clothes. Now I want to jump your bones, because now you freed up this extra time for me and showed me that, uh, you know, you I have no excuse because these other chores are done. Like, you know what I mean? There's other there are other ways to kind of create that desire, if you will.
Mhm.
Sometimes you need impactful care when the office is closed. For after hours or weekend telehealth visits, email us team@impactfulcare.com. In the subject line, put "Need Care After Hours." Your health matters, day or night.
So
And there's a
that's
lot.
often my tools at bedside too. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to say about men doing house chores just to get paid in sex in uh like quotations, air quotes. But the thing is, this is actually quite off-putting for a lot of women because they are now thinking like, oh, you just did this so that we can, get
Get it
going with
on.
the sex stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is genuinely the opposite of why women want men to do household duties and chores. The real reason is that they just want to be feeling seen and taken care of. Not that there is a trade. Like for a lot of women, this is off-putting. Um, and a lot of men don't realize
Yeah.
that realistically, women just want to be taken care of. And they shouldn't be doing this because they're going to get something out of it. If I wanted this kind of an arrangement, I will just pay someone to come around, clean the house for an hour every week, and then I will sleep peacefully and not worry that someone now has expectations of me that I may not be up for because I don't know, I haven't fed myself well, I haven't slept well, I'm bloated for whatever reason, I broke a leg or some shit. I don't know. Like, I don't want that kind of heaviness. And that's exactly why a lot of people struggle in relationships because, yes, relationships are transactional, but it can be a tit for tat. This is uber unhealthy. There
Yeah.
needs to be a balance.
Absolutely. I hear so many of my women caregivers like, "Amen, sister." So what
But
what
yeah,
would you say to the men
that's it.
now? I can't leave the men hanging because I hear the men saying, "Well, she needs to fulfill my needs. She needs to recognize that sex is my love language. All the things. This is how I connect. This is the way I connect." So what are the tips or guidance you give the female client in terms of supporting her male counterpart?
Well, to be honest, I would flip this on to the men more than the women because, again, this whole narrative of like, she needs to satisfy me. I'm like, no, she doesn't have to do jack shit. I teach my clients there are only 5 or 6 things that you have to do. It's a must that you have to do to stay subscribed to life, to stay alive, basically. And these are the basics of functions of the body. You need to eat, drink, sleep, go to the toilet, breathe, and finally, you can't avoid it, die. So these are the 6 things that you have to do in life. With the last one is actually like leaving life. But the point is, nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you their time. Nobody owes you their body. Nobody owes you their attention. Nobody owes you their care. And men have been socialized to think that women do all them. And men have learned to feel entitled to women's time, body, labor, you name it. And I'm like, for as long as you hold this belief, you're shooting yourself in the dick and you ain't gonna get good sex, because all of that mindset is uber off-putting and destructive for relationships. And I see it in my clients like
Time and time
every
again.
time when we're
Time and time
yeah.
again.
When this comes up, I'm like, do you realize how you're shooting yourself in the dick with this? And they're like, oh shit. And when they start understanding it, they're like, oh my God, I've been doing this to my relationship. And I'm like, yes, you have. Because I have had so many clients, couples, who the woman has sexual needs, but she has stopped seeking the attention of her partner for those needs because he doesn't see it as his business to satisfy her, one, or he's all in only when he's in the mood, and men do say no. So there is this expectation of she has to be up for it anytime I want to, but I don't have to be like satisfying her every time. There's a lot that men do that just brings distrust into the relationship. And I'm not talking about cheating. I'm talking about not being reliable, not being trustworthy, not showing up for their partner. This is genuinely like shooting yourself in the dick. How would you want your partner to feel connected to you, to feel passionate about you, to feel like they want you in their body, when you show that you're not a trustworthy person to be around, or you're not looking after their best interest? Why should your female partner look after your best interest when you're not interested in her best interest?
Mm-hmm.
So
it sounds like you
again.
start with the basic, relationship breakdown, the basic foundational, infarcts, if you will, and then get to the getting. It sounds like.
Well,
it's important. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is that sex is the first thing to fly out the window when the relationship is in turmoil, and the last thing to come back. If the men listening to this spend a little bit of time thinking to themselves, what if I was the one getting penetrated? And a lot of men their booty right now would go, no, right? Well, imagine this being the way you connect with someone, that they enter your body. Would you be okay doing it with people that you don't trust, that don't look after your interest? Like there's so many comedians and men talking about going to the doctors for a prostate exam and panicking for a finger to enter them, to examine them for health, and them having a mental breakdown because of it. And I'm like, well, you're so rigid about something that is for your benefit and for your health because something or somebody's going to enter your body. Imagine that someone demanded this of you in order for them to feel connected to you. And
that's a visual. That's a visual.
Exactly.
That's so true. It's so true that bond again has to be established well before, and the trust and all of those things. Absolutely. So tell us, how does a client get to you? Do you do remote work? We're an international audience, so tell us all the goodness of you and how a client would get to your site, all the things.
Well, clients can just search my name. I'm very easy to find. Leah Spasova, the only person in the world with that name. If you put psychologist, you're definitely going to find me. And I'm often at capacity with clients. So if you don't have the opportunity to work with me because of whatever reasons, be it time, be it budget, be it my own capacity, I would recommend that people go to a website called LIFESEXPLICIT, because life is explicit and there's a lot of sex in life for it to continue existing on this planet. So if you visit lifesexplicit.com, you will be able to search for professionals specializing in sex and relationships, because the majority of mental health professionals that have gone through mainstream education do not specialize and do not understand sex and relationships in the depth and with the breadth that you may need someone to be able to support you in an effective way. So this is a platform specifically dedicated to your sex and relationship needs. And if you are struggling with anything related to age or, let's say, illness or whatever it is, you can actually search for professionals specializing with, say, cancer and sexuality, or postnatal and sexuality, or
Very interesting.
whatever it is that you need. Yeah. Yeah.
Pelvic
Because they are
floor
professionals focusing.
dysfunction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Painful
And
sex, and there are a lot of
raise,
these.
yeah, I'm sorry to keep interrupting. You raise a good point there too when you talk about, when we think in the context of mental health, right? We think anxiety, depression, stress, adjustment, trauma, but adding, your sexual health to your mental health and vitality, so that is a very important eye opener there, even for myself as a clinician, as I sit with patients and counsel in that regard, that is an aspect to obviously health and wellness, but your mental health. So that's an important point as well.
Absolutely. It's massive. Most people don't recognize how impactful our relationships are. They realize it, but they don't recognize it in daily life. A while ago, I held a talk for entrepreneurs in my county in Oxfordshire, UK, that I discussed how they and why they should care whether their employees are happy and getting laid. And they were like, what? And I'm like, yeah, invest in the health and well-being of your employees' relationships and sex life, and you would see that their productivity would go up. Why? Because when you've had an argument with your spouse at home, you come to work, your head is not in the work. It's in every single word they said last night and screamed at you, and everything you said and could have said better to them to bring it back to them. But when people are happy, they show up at work. When they've had, how many people like can relate to me saying, when you have had an amazing sex session with your partner, you feel invincible. You feel like at the top of a mountain. You feel like there's nothing that you cannot do. Like you can take on the world. And imagine if your employees came to work with that mindset, because last night they were connecting with their partner, they were having the best time, they roll into work and they're like, I'm on the top of my game because I'm desirable, I'm loved, I'm supported, I'm like full of love and energy, and I have a lot to give. When do people have nothing to give? When they're depleted. When do people feel depleted? When they're not loved, supported, nurtured, desired, and so forth. So hell yeah, everybody should care about their sex life and should take it as a mental health aspect, as a profitable thing to invest in when it comes to their workforce. So absolutely, it is part of our mental health. It is part of our daily life. It's part of our survival. If you think how many people like genuinely kill themselves when they lose the love of their life, how many elderly people die shortly after the love of their life has died, you see how important and vital relationships are for our well-being and for our desire to be in this world and to be a powerhouse of love, creativity, productivity, and so forth.
Yeah, what a way to take us out. That's it. That's it. I got nothing. That's perfect. Well, Lee, I appreciated this conversation and, important eye opener, important sex tips from our sexpert here on the Care Pod. So again, thank you so much for your time, and search her, Leah Spasova, on the internet, psychologist, sexpert extraordinaire, and take the time and get those sheets, ladies and gentlemen, get the sheets.
Thanks again.
And thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Great information right from the source. For more information on how to caregive like a boss, check out impactfulcaregiving.com. Want to be a guest on the show? Contact us at CarePod at impactfulcaregiving.com.